Maria, you asked me the other day what I thought about Glass, and I thought it'd be easier to do a video about it than to like write it all out, because I'll probably miss something either way, but if I try to write it out, then I'll just keep on like fiddling with it forever and it'll never get done. And this will maybe be more productive. I'll be able to flex my editing muscles a bit, and this will be an easier project to start with than finishing the music video. So I thought this would be nice to do. So thank you for asking me, because otherwise I wouldn't have done it. It's definitely M. Night Shyamalan's worst good movie. I watched Unbreakable and Split right before going to see it, so I had that context. I haven't seen Sixth Sense. I'm just taking it for taking everybody's word that it's like, you know, Unbreakable, Sixth Sense, kind of tied for first or close, and then Split, and then Glass is my ranking, and then Power Dab. The rest of the head shit. There's two main reasons why I really appreciate it. It's not for the story, it's not for the acting, but something I did find out reading about, you know, M. Night Shyamalan, his fall from grace, and the whole, all the shit that happened. That kind of led up to people being really surprised by Split, and led up to me being really excited about Glass, and then, you know, kind of disappointed by Glass. One thing I found out during all of that was he shoots almost everything in Philadelphia, or at least Pennsylvania. Airbender was mostly shot, it was like 2 weeks in Greenland, and then they shot the rest in Reading, and then they did all the interiors in Philadelphia. Unbreakable, of course, set in Philadelphia. Same with Split, same with Glass, because they're all kind of taking place in that same thing. So that was interesting to find out. What was more interesting is the way I found out about it, the way that it was phrased when I found out about it, which was that the writer kind of made it seem like a negative. It was written right around the time where M. Night Shyamalan was starting to not really be a big deal. When people were starting to kind of scratch their heads and be like, what's going on? Like right around like The Village, The Lady in the Water period, where people were like, wait, is M. Night Shyamalan actually like a really bad filmmaker? I'd argue he's a really bad storyteller, but one of the things that this person had to say as a point towards him being a bad filmmaker was he was refusing to play the Hollywood game and insisting to shoot everything in his hometown of Philly. I'm in the film industry in a small city. Those types of people who find success and then stay at home are the lifeblood of grassroots independent cinema. They give people jobs, they create industry, they bring money into the region. I kind of really stung. Felt like it was written by somebody who had not really worked in the industry, who couldn't appreciate what sort of huge boon that would be for Philly to have somebody as big as M. Night Shyamalan was right after Sixth Sense say, I'm not gonna move to LA, I'm not gonna move out west, and like take all of those jobs, all of those dollars, all of that professional development that comes from working on a feature. I'm not gonna take all that miles away from the people who helped me get here. I'm gonna stick around. I'm gonna, you know, help. Working on my movies is gonna be their livelihood. That's the public good right there. And the other thing that I thought was cool is, you know, across all of the movies that I've seen, M. Night Shyamalan's a much better director of light than he is a director of story. Both Split and Glass have these cringeworthy scenes where a doctor or she's like a psychiatrist or a psychologist or something in Split, but they kind of sit in a room and they not only explain plot-wise what the dysfunction of the character they're speaking to, like the more important central character, not only explain their dysfunction, but explain their emotional state right now. And in Glass, there were scenes where that happened with like not the dysfunctional characters, like David Dunn's son. The son comes in to talk to the doctor, and she does this weird thing where he tells a really funny story. He tries to excuse all of his father's behavior, and it's really funny, and he like mimes a bunch of stuff. But we don't see that. We just see her kind of recapping it, saying like, let me get this straight. You just said all this funny, wacky stuff in this really silly way, and then he nods. And I was like, that's weird. But then she like explains to him how important his father is in his life, and how he's feeling now that he's been in prison. And he just kind of nods and then walks out. And there's a bunch of scenes that are a character having some pretty complicated emotional stuff and just have it be unpacked by a doctor or someone who knows them really well. Just kind of saying it all. Meanwhile, you have these visual sequences which are not afraid to be so bold and obvious that they're kind of stupid. Like, I would compare the opening scene on the train from Unbreakable to the scene in the pink room from Glass. I would compare them visually. Obviously, plot-wise, you know, there's a huge step down from Unbreakable to Glass. Plot-wise, you're seeing all of this stuff from the perspective of the little girl. She's moving back and forth. You see the details like David Dunn taking off his wedding ring. You kind of get a sense of his desperation, his pointlessness in life. Just kind of, somebody sits down beside him for like a minute and he tries to start making, you know, a human interaction. Tries to establish a relationship with this stranger because he seems so starved for it at the start of that film. And you're also being fed plot information about like he's scared of water, he can't swim, and it's just like a great scene. But visually, the way that scene, the camera keeps moving between the spaces between the chair and the window, and you're peeking through that, and you're in the child's point of view the whole time, and then she dies at the end of the scene when the train crashes. Like it's so obvious it's dumb. How do we make people sad that this train crashed? You know, you show a little kid dead. How do you make the audience even sadder that that kid died in that train crash? Well, you spend like 5 minutes in a scene where you're essentially locked in their POV and you see things from where they're seeing things, and then that character dies and you're sad. Like, it's so obvious that when you spell it out, it's kind of dumb. Like The Sixth Sense, Red, I was just reading on Wikipedia, sorry. Like, red is intentionally cut out of the movie. There's very little red in it, except for a few key moments. It's saved for, what was the phrasing? Real world objects that have been corrupted by being touched by the other world or something like that. And like, that's like really dumb. Like, that was smart in Schindler's List, but doing that again and being like, it's still deep, it's still meaningful, you're copying one-to-one Spielberg so directly that it's kind of dumb, it's kind of obvious. But the thing that makes it good in Shyamalan films is that he's not scared to go there. I feel like a lot of filmmakers are held back by their fear that somebody will see something they've done that they were inspired to do by seeing it being done elsewhere, or they got the idea from kind of synthesizing two things that they'd seen. And when you take that idea and you hold on to it long enough to actually put it in a movie, you hold on to it for so long that it's kind of the most obvious, stupidest thing you know, that a person could think of to you, just as it's been such a clear idea in your mind for so long. It's not really innovative or interesting or special or surprising to you. But M. Night Shyamalan doesn't give into that. You know, let's have a giant pink room where our heroes are all sat having this final psychological confrontation with the villain. No, it's kind of obvious. Well, it's pink because it's like, oh, they're vulnerable. They're all sitting there. That's kind of obvious. Let's cut to a point of view shot from Samuel Jackson's character, and since he's limp in the chair, let's have that camera on a really tilted, steeply Dutch angle and really push us into that POV of somebody who's so sedated they can't even keep their head up. Well, they're acting like they are. Like, that's kind of obvious. It's kind of stupid. It's kind of over dramatic. Doesn't really add anything to that scene because despite being in Mr. Glass's POV, we don't really understand what he's thinking in that scene. It's part of the twist later that whatever we thought he was thinking was probably not what he was thinking in that scene because he was pretending to be sedated at that point. Spoilers. I trust you've seen it. I don't think you would have asked me what my opinion was of it if you hadn't also seen it. I felt like that was a loaded question when you asked it, which is fine. That said, like, does that scene work story-wise? No. Was it visually beautiful? Yeah. And not in the way that Transformers movies or Marvel movies or Star Wars Disney movies are, where like the spectacle is all explosions and special effects and CGI, and M. Night Shyamalan's still doing stuff in camera, still finding weird ways to look at a room, weird ways to look at a person, over-expressive, melodramatic cinematography. And I appreciate that. Dan Olson at Folding Ideas called it film school. I don't know. I kind of like what I did in film school. Talk to you soon.